This is a disturbing image of Jesus as a three-headed hybrid, a strange multi-headed being with one body, 3 noses, and 4 eyes. Without a doubt, Jesus is the most frequently depicted figure in art. Yet, you might find yourself stunned, even shocked, to learn that such an image of Christianity's holiest figure exists. For some, it may even be viewed as outright blasphemy. The Catholic Church certainly thought so, going to great lengths to prevent this image from being widely seen, hiding it away from the world. But what led to the creation of such a depiction of Jesus in the first place? Was it simply an act of disrespect? Or is there a deeper story behind it? In today's video, we'll take a deep dive into these intriguing questions and take a closer look at several paintings the Church has tried to keep hidden from us for centuries, paintings that fortunately have survived to this day. To begin our story, let's first get back in time to the order to ban this kind of image from circulation. In 1545, at the Council of Trent, the Catholic Church sent a powerful message to the world, ordering the destruction of certain paintings deemed heretical and monstrous. These images, they believed, were so disturbing that they instilled fear in the hearts of the faithful, making prayer before them impossible. The Church's directive was clear and unwavering. Such unsettling depictions had no place within the sacred walls of worship. The Council's decrees emphasized the vital role of images as educational tools, rather than mere objects of artistic admiration. These images were intended to instruct and guide the faithful, not to captivate with elaborate details. The Council stressed that the purpose of such images was to help believers emulate the holy figures they depicted, inspiring devotion, love for God, and a deepened sense of piety. One striking example of this type of painting is the infamous Freak Trinity, a provocative portrayal of Jesus with 3 faces sharing a single body. This eerie and unsettling image ignited widespread controversy. The concept quickly spread, inspiring countless interpretations and leaving a lasting impression on the art world. The belief in the Holy Trinity is at the core of Christian tradition. You might already know this doctrine. The one God, as revealed in the Holy Bible, exists eternally in 3 distinct persons: the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. This belief was formally established at the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD. These 3 are not separate gods, but one co-equal and co-eternal, sharing the same divine nature and attributes. Essentially, the Father is not the Son is not the Spirit, and the Spirit is not the Father. Does it seem confusing? That's perfectly normal. This concept indeed defies straightforward logic, and perhaps that's exactly the point. For centuries, people have wrestled with its meaning, sparking countless debates. Even among devout Christians, not everyone embraces the concept of the Holy Trinity. Take, for instance, Isaac Newton, one of history's most brilliant scientists. Newton, despite his deep faith, held anti-Trinitarian beliefs. He saw Jesus Christ as a mere human being and believed that worshiping him was dangerously close to idolatry. The concept of the Trinity, both profound and contentious, presented ancient artists with a daunting challenge. How could they capture such a complex, abstract belief in a visually compelling painting? The results are images that have changed dramatically over the centuries, carrying with it an intriguing history. The oldest and still most widely accepted representation today is through geometric figures, such as a triangle, trefoil, or the triquetra. 2 of the most iconic illustrations of the Holy Trinity are rich in symbolism. One depicts a triangle with a circle, representing the eternal nature of the Holy Spirit. The other features a triangle with an eye at its center, a powerful image that first appeared in the Codex Fala manuscript from 1210, the earliest known document to portray the Holy Trinity through art. Over time, the depiction of the Christian Trinity evolved. In various iconographic traditions, God the Father is often depicted as an elderly man with white hair and a beard, while the Holy Spirit takes the form of a dove. Building on these familiar images, artists have explored different ways to represent the anthropomorphic Trinity. One such approach is the horizontal juxtaposition of 3 identical figures, each inspired by the likeness of Jesus Christ. This idea of three identical beings draws from the biblical story in Genesis chapter 18 verses 1 to 22, where Abraham encounters three men. To prevent the misunderstanding of tritheism, the notion that the three persons of the Trinity are three separate gods, artists came up with the three-faced Trinity. This unique portrayal features three faces sharing a single body, powerfully illustrating the unity of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit as one God. This iconographic theme became known as the trifacial Trinity. In the early medieval period, a related image known as the Three-Headed Trinity also emerged, depicting God with three heads. Three-headed deities are more common than you might think. Take, for example, the Slavic god Triglav, whose three heads represent the sky, earth, and underworld, or Hecate, the Greek goddess of sorcery and magic. And it's not just in Europe. This motif appears across cultures, especially in Hindu traditions, where the god Brahma, the three-headed divinity of creation, is revered. When Christianity began to spread across Europe, it likely absorbed these existing artistic motifs, drawing inspiration from the depictions of pre-Christian gods. These influences offered much-needed guidance to early Christian artists struggling to represent the concept of the Trinity. By the Middle Ages and the early Renaissance, the image of a three-headed Jesus had become a well-established art form, appearing in places where you might least expect it. Artists of the Italian Renaissance particularly loved the three-faced depiction of Jesus, for it allowed them to draw inspiration from ancient art. This type of representation appears in several notable works, such as a mural in the Cathedral of Atri, created by Antonio Martini di Atri around 1400, and in the Tabernacle of the Court of Merchandise, crafted by Donatello between 1423 and 1425. In the Hispanic region, there are also notable examples of this imagery. One of the most renowned is the Trinity that once adorned the main altarpiece of the temple at the monastery of Santa Maria de la Caridad in the town of Culebras, Navarra. As time passed, particularly in the 17th and 18th centuries, this iconographic style spread throughout Central and South America. However, not all were happy with the three-faced and three-headed depictions of the Trinity. Theologians and guardians of Christian doctrine viewed them as unnatural monstrosities. During medieval times, this artistic approach also clashed with the multi-headed imagery of the devil, a stark and obvious contrast. By the 16th century, such portrayals became a source of ridicule among Protestants. This growing opposition eventually drew the attention of the highest ecclesiastical authorities. In 1563, at the Council of Trent, these images were formally condemned. Later, in a papal bull issued by Pope Urban VIII on August 11, 1628, it was declared that these heretical depictions must be removed and burned, erasing any trace of their existence. Despite the Church's determined efforts to eliminate these controversial paintings, it was impossible to erase them all from existence. Some clever artists devised ways to preserve their work by subtly altering it. For instance, they would cover the two side faces of the trifacial Trinity, leaving only the central face visible. A striking example of this can be found in a painting by Gregorio Vasquez, now preserved in the Colonial Museum in Bogotá, Colombia. Vasquez cleverly concealed the two side faces by painting over them with thick flowing hair. However, nearly 400 years later, during a restoration effort, it was uncovered that this hair had been added later to obscure the original depiction. When the overpainting was removed, the original image of Jesus with three faces emerged. One of the interesting things about these paintings is that the vast majority remain anonymous to this day, and that's no accident. The fear instilled by the Church likely led artists to erase or avoid signing their works, fearing severe punishment for challenging ecclesiastical doctrine. Once the Church issued the decree to burn these paintings, artists were forced to hide their creations, often taking them far from major cities and centers of church power. In doing so, these pieces of art found refuge in remote locations where the Church's influence was weaker, allowing these controversial representations to survive despite the heavy censorship. The trifacial Trinity might seem unusual to us today, but it's worth remembering that it once played a crucial role as a visual tool to help explain the paradoxical concept of the Trinity. In its time, this image was held in deep reverence as a sacred icon. This is also a classic example of how ecclesiastical restrictions have influenced the creation and preservation of art. This raises fascinating questions. How many masterpieces of immense artistic and historical value remain hidden in the shadows, awaiting rediscovery? Or, more troubling, how many have been lost forever due to the Church's censorship? What do you think of these depictions of the Holy Trinity? Let us know your thoughts about this.